honored if you would join us.
Greetings and welcome to another YouTube episode of Film Stories with me, Dan Kupak. We're about to jump back into our second part of our interview with Jeremy Fry, the stunt driver from Ford versus Ferrari and Baby Driver. He's going to talk about some of the problems with the cars in Ford versus Ferrari and his views on practical and CGI work in stunt driving and beyond. Before you dive into it, please do hit the subscribe button, hit the little notification bell button, just so you know when new content arrives. Every subscription really helps the channel here and the Film Stories project. We're an independent project, and you can hear and find more about that after the interview. Enjoy. What on that note, what is the kind of the best looking or sleekest car that you've driven that just for whatever reason handled like a dog?
Oh man! Oh wow, that's very funny. Let me think. I've had cars that looked good that just they wouldn't perform, but it's mostly a deficiency in in the e-brake or in the differential. I'm trying to think. There's a good chance. I mean, Ford Ferrari definitely had cars on Ford Ferrari and there was a lot of time. And fortunately for me, I wasn't involved in it, but a lot of emails, a lot of phone calls about lackluster performance with some of the vehicles, not meeting expectations, and as a result, there were some experts brought in to try to dial in some of the cars. So, keeping this conversation kind of within these boundaries, it is with. I mean, Ford Ferrari was definitely one of those shows where the GT40s we had initially, they were miserable in the wet. They were miserable. You could have driven faster in a 2010 Honda Accord than you could drive in those things. And they were messing with tires. Were a difficulty trying to get tires that looked right and that would fit the wheels. It was a big challenge. It was a monster challenge. I know there's a lot of work done with suspension, geometry, alignment. All those were addressed and played with, and they all made differences. They all helped. But I will say, at the end of the day, no one was exactly happy with what we could get out of the cars. We did the best we could, but the GT40s we had it was really difficult to get them to perform at the level we felt that they should be able to.
And I suppose because this is all rooted in history as well, this isn't like a Batmobile where it can look great, but it doesn't really matter if it performs because it never practically has to. These cars need to look right. The tyres on them need to look like the tyres that were on them during the race, and as the same for the housing and the design. Because otherwise, I guess you get a lot of motor enthusiasts who have suddenly become very flustered because the cars don't look exactly the same as they did in the original race.
Oh yeah, yeah. It was interesting too. Some of I can't point to any specific instance, but there were several times when the cars that were supposed to be the slower cars that the GT40s were supposed to be just blitzing by. On the radio, you hear, "Hey guys, slow down! You can't run away. We got to let Kelly has to be able to keep up with you. Kelly's got to pass you here." Or Tony Hunt's, Tony will get on the radio. Hey guys, I can't carry that much speed through that corner. You guys got to, help me out. So it was, it happens, and that's par for the course. And sometimes it's the drivers, sometimes it's the cars, and in this case, the drivers we had were all top-notch drivers. So, they were making the most out of the cars that they had.
And what was it as practical a shoot as Baby Driver? I mean, I mean that film looks immensely practical. Was this film as practical? Was the CG involved, or I mean, did you use a pre-visualization kind of system for this one? Do you know about CG being added afterwards or in post?
Yeah, we did have there were CG, or there were previses, there were pre-visualizations, there were cartoons that had been made to show us and show everyone kind of what the idea was and what we wanted to see, and then we would recreate it. So we definitely had the previs. We definitely had previses to reference and as kind of a guide. so to speak. I actually have not seen the final product, so I can't really speak too much to how much CG was involved. I can't believe there's none. But that being said, there aren't shots that I can recall. I don't believe there were any shots that we said, all right, we're going to do this, and then we're going to CG in a car, or we're going to take the car and we're going to enhance it, which is really nice. And that's one of the hallmarks of Darren is the second director. He's really, really good at coming up with practical stunts. I like long takes. I like doing things in one. I like the complication and the challenge of not just shooting this little bit and then this little bit and this little bit and stitching it into one big stunt or one big gag. I like doing it practically, and Darren's of the same mindset. Yeah. So it's really fun working with him because that's what we try to do. And luckily, this was one of those shows where we could do that. I'm on a show now where, unfortunately, everything, so much is getting punted to CG, to VFX that, you kind of, you do the best you can and you want to look good, but at the same time, you get to a point where you're like, well, we can work really hard to get this in one, or we can just do it as we know we can do it and move on, knowing that the visual effects artists will come in and they'll add the one car in here that we just are having a real hard time incorporating. But Ford Ferrari was practical. We had special effects help us out with stuff, explosions or I don't think they did build a cannon to launch a car.
Oh yeah, so that in the trailer.
Yes, you have seen it. So that was an effects. Deal. Obviously, maybe not obviously, but we did not drive a car in and launch it and do all that for real with a driver. But it's not CG. It's not. It wasn't created in a dark room by some guys or girls on a computer.
And can you tell us anything about the film you're working on at the moment? You say it's a little more CG heavy.
Yeah, I don't know what I could say. I know I can't say, which I can't even tell you the title. It's going to be a good movie. Don't get me wrong. It's going to be a really good movie. And we're working on stuff right now. We have rehearsals today, so we're rehearsing stuff and trying to get it all dialed in and make it look as good as we can. And it should be good. It should be really good. But it's just it's not. It seems like I feel like things are kind of shifting to try maybe a little more practical.
Yeah.
Or at least people are kind of appreciating that. And I had always, I remember before Baby Driver came out, or even before I was working on it, I remember thinking, man, I would really like to see a resurgence and an interest in maintaining. Or at least people appreciating the lack of CG and doing things practically. And I thought it'd even be a pretty decent marketing point. Because I know Ronin, I don't know if they marketed it this way, but Ronin, the movie Ronin, at least in the circles I'm familiar with, is known as a show where what you see is what they did. The film isn't sped up. There's no CG. The speeds that you see are the speeds they were going. And so I always thought that was really cool. And I've always appreciated the movie for that and many other reasons as well. So with Baby Driver, I was very, very happy to see that people were noticing and appreciating the fact that the stuff we did was practical.
Yeah.
I don't know that it was marketed necessarily that way, but it certainly has earned a well-deserved reputation as such. So I'm hoping that more and more movies will try to use CG for it in a more limited fashion. I definitely CG has its place. Computer graphics can let us do some really cool stuff. But at the same time, if people, for me, when I watch the Fast and Furious movies, I feel like I'm watching to a certain extent a cartoon.
Yeah.
And it's still entertaining, but back in the day when you would see a guy on the edge of a building and he fell off, everyone would ask, how in the world did they...
Skyscraper in Mission Impossible. And I think most audiences are kind of cine literate to the point when they can look at one and say, that's real, and look at one and say, that's CGI. Do you think that from that point, clearly Baby Driver connected with the audience because they looked at it and said, that's real, and that's what makes that so magnificent, is those are real cars doing real things. I'm guessing then you're more attracted to projects like that? Is that something that you actively seek out, or is it a case of take what comes, or somewhere in between?
Oh yeah, you know, we definitely have our wish list and our and the things we send to Santa asking what we want for Christmas, but whether we get it or not, it's a different story. So for me, because I do so much work with Darren, and because Darren has developed a reputation that he has, luckily he gets shows that kind of fall in that vein, and and so I oftentimes do get to work on them. As far as the audience goes, the optimist in me would like to think that audiences know that they, more importantly to me, care. However, when I look at the success of things like Fast and Furious, which believe me, I'm over the moon that it does so well. But because I see how many people love those movies and go to watch them, it makes me realize that I might care, but probably most people they probably don't care like I care, and I get that. But that being said, even though people will still watch whatever they want to watch, and they'll watch these, all the superhero movies, it's full of that stuff, and they do so well, and that's great, because there are a lot of stunts in there. But but I also see that people, I think they do. I don't think they seek it out, and I don't even think that it's necessarily conscious. But I think when someone sees a movie and they believe that it's actually real, I think that people, again, they might not realize that they're having that thought, but I think that there are movies where there's movies that people watch that as they're watching it before they even sign on, or in the middle of it, or whether it's when the movie's over, they think to themselves, subconsciously or not, this is going to be entertainment, but none of this is real. And then there's other movies that at some point, maybe before they get there, or maybe at some point during the movie, or even afterwards, they look at it and go, that all looked real. That all looked real. I think that people might not be necessarily discerning about it, but I think that people do. I think it can resonate with some people.
Okay, so that's part 2 of our interview with Jeremy. There's one more part to come when he talks about some of his other work, including Drive, doubling for Ryan Gosling. Before you go, please do check out other parts of the Film Stories project. You can find our print magazines. Yes, magazines, plural. That's Film Stories and Film Stories Junior. You can find information about them at our website, where we have news stories every day and long-form content, filmstories.co.uk. You can find us on Facebook at Film Stories Online and on Twitter at Film Stories Pod. Don't forget, we've got the amazing Film Stories podcasts too at a podcast downloader of your choice. Gosh, so much Film Stories. Have a great week. There'll be another episode up soon with the final part of the Jeremy Fry interview up in the next few days. Until then, take care. Bye now.